Hello everyone, my name's Soaring Sloth, and today I thought I'd try doing something I've never really done before. I am someone who's been playing a lot of Ultrakill again since the Act 2 update dropped, so I thought it'd be fun to sit down and try to rank all the stages currently in the game in hopefully one take, but you know. I have a lot I want to share about each stage, but before I head first into this, I thought I'd probably go over some criteria as well as what each tier means. So I'll be ranking each stage based on your first time playing through it. So, you know, you head into 1-1, you only have the revolver at that point in the game, as well as its alternates. You don't have anything else. Just along those lines for each point in the game. I'll also be critiquing each stage on its replay value after you've beaten it. So, you know, like, basically anything goes. You know, have the full arsenal. Probably hunting secrets, P ranks, whatever. And the last thing I'll be ranking each stage on is what it adds to the game, I guess. You know, like, let's say, like, you know, a stage adds a new enemy, or like, you know, it gives you access to a new weapon or an alternate. Just something along those lines. Maybe a standout moment if it's, like, that impactful. But other than that, just those three big points for each stage is what I'm going to be basing my tier list off of. As for the tiers themselves, might as well, I guess, start with the top one. Nutty is, well, Nutty. Basically, it's the cream of the crop for Ultrakill, you know. You boot up this game, if you had to pick a stage that you wanted to replay, or just play again, this is the stage, these are the stages you would go to. Like, these stages are just very fun all around, you know. They really test everything, you know, about the game itself, and just overall, a very pleasant experience. Fantastic All Around is basically kind of the same thing as Nutty, but, like, you know, just a couple steps down, you know. It probably doesn't hit those same highs as, like, the tier above it, but, you know, it's still a very good stage overall. Like, there's probably not even really any problems with it, and if there is, I mean, like, they're so minor, it's, like, not even an issue. Like, you could just play it and just not even notice it, really. Fun to play regardless, you know. Still very fun. There might be something minor in the stage that probably might, you know, bug you. Like, maybe it's, like, you know, a bad enemy placement, or, like, maybe just something else that's annoying that you can't really pinpoint, but it's there. But, you know, like, you're still willing to go back to it. You're still willing to have a fun time. Just that kind of stuff. Willing to revisit. You know, this is probably where, like, you know, a stage probably has a very glaring issue. You know, maybe it's just, like, you know, you keep falling somewhere, or, like, you know, there's just some wonky collision elsewhere, or just, I don't know. Something annoys you about said stage. But, like, you know, if you're like doing like a full, like, act playthrough, or even just a layer playthrough, you're willing to play this stage alongside everything else just to, you know, like, you know, get the full package. And, like, you probably won't even hate it that much when you get there. You're just like, you're in the zone. Has something going for it, not much else. It's basically the tier for, you know, stages that basically have one thing that's like, you know, alright, you know what? You can at least say that's good about it, but everything else about the stage kind of ranges from meh to, alright, you know what? This kind of sucks. I mean, that's really about it. Get your P rank and get out. Pretty self-explanatory, though. You know, you're only really there to probably just get your P rank and then never touch that stage again. Probably because either it's really hard to P rank, or just, you know, the stage is just that bad. Overall, you probably played this stage the first time around, you're just like, wow, I really didn't enjoy this. And you're just like, damn, if I'm going for P ranks, I have to play this stage. So it's more of just like, you know, alright, this probably is your least favorite stage. You probably don't want to play it, but you need that P rank to go access the P stages, so... I mean, there's only one currently in the game right now, but, you know, hey, that'll definitely change in the future, so. And I guess the last thing I'll really say before I head straight first into this is, you know, At the end of the day, this is still just my own opinion. I doubt this video will get super big, you know, to the point where I actually have a bunch of people flaming me in the comments why, you know, one stage is actually amazing and this other stage is shit. But, you know, if I end up having differing opinions than you, that's okay. I don't mind. It's human to have different opinions. I mean, like, I honestly would love to just talk about why your opinion's different in the comments. But anyway. And if you're also just someone who's never seen Ultrakill before, be it like, you know, one of my friends just clicked on this video or somebody happened to find my video on YouTube, honestly, just go buy Ultrakill. It's a fantastic game. It's not too expensive, and, you know, you'll probably catch it on sale when you see this. Probably not, but either way, it's still a fantastic game. Very worth your time. With that, yeah, let's get right into this. Alright, first up on our list, is 0-1 Into the Fire. You know, for that first stage you see in Ultrakill, I think it serves its purpose. You know, you get access to the revolver the moment you start the game. It has, like, a secondary piercing shot. And you're only really introduced into 3 enemies, which are the most basic of basic enemies out there in Ultrakill. You have the filths, I guess, according to the wiki. I always just call them husks, but, you know, I guess we'll go by terminology here. They just run directly at you and just bite you, you know, if you aren't being smart. The strays will just shoot a projectile directly at you every couple of seconds, and the malicious face at the very end of the stage will, you know, alternate between, like, you know, those projectile shots the strays use and a piercing beam, really. But they're all pretty easy to avoid. But I think the one standout thing really is, you know, playing this stage again with just the piercing revolver. It's almost a little funny trying to play it again because you're so used to everything else, but, you know, the piercing shot, like, you know, if you charge up, you can kill several filths at once, but, like, you know, there's like 5, 7, or even 10 in a room. You aren't going to be killing everything in one shot. You kind of have to, like, maneuver yourself around to actually be able to kill everything without getting hit, and it's a little awkward. But, you know, it serves as that introductory stage. There's nothing too extraordinary yet, so, I mean, like, you know, it's not really a big issue. But you also have access to the... Let me pull it up right real quick. The feedbacker, the blue arm. It can technically parry projectiles, but I mean, like, you aren't formally taught this yet until, like, I believe Lust. That's when they point it out, but you'll probably figure out by the time you get out of Prelude in some capacity. But, you know, it technically is there with you from the start, and it's technically there before you get the revolver. You just know how to punch, just not how to parry. But outside of that, though, I think for the first stage, it's fun to play regardless. Like, it isn't outstanding, but, like, you know, for that first stage, first time playthrough, it hammers in the message of, like, what you're going into. And, like, you know, should you come back to it, I mean, like, with your full arsenal, let's say for, like, a full playthrough or something, I mean, like, you're able to get out of there pretty quickly. There's nothing really holding you back from just killing a couple strays, filths, and that malicious face at the end, especially. But yeah, for first stage, I think it does what it needs to. And you'll probably hear me say that for the remainder of Prelude as well, but, you know, we'll get there when we get there. Right after 0-1 is 0-2, the MEATGRINDER. This stage is fine. Just like 0-1, it isn't a massive standout. You know, it's meant to really just get your feet wet with what Ultrakill has to offer. You probably bought the marksman revolver, maybe not, but, you know, you can finally toy with that. The game does introduce some, like, stage hazards. You know, you can technically get crushed, and I think there's, like, you know, a place where you can fall and die right at the beginning. But outside of that, there isn't anything too new, but it does introduce you to the swords machine, which, you know, I feel like is very flashy the first time you see it. But you technically can go fight the swords machine early and get the shotgun early in 0-2, but you have to fight both stages of the fight, which, I mean, you know, with just the revolver, even if you have the marksman variant, I feel like is pretty damn hard. Especially if you're coming into Ultrakill with no real knowledge. I mean, like, you'll probably just sit there and be like, what the fuck? This is kind of bullshit, but, you know, you eventually just learn, especially if you know how to parry. But outside of that, though, this stage doesn't offer too much. I mean, I do think it's probably a step up from 0-1, though, just because, I mean, like, you know, there is that extra flair of going to fight the swords machine early. I mean, like, there is a couple extra things to spice, you know, a few things up, you know, just not too much, but, you know, there's a couple extras. There's also the secret exit, which, I mean, you know, you have to go find the blue skull, but I feel like if you're looking everywhere, that shouldn't be too hard to find. But outside of that, though, 0-2 is just kind of middle of the road. Alright, 0-3. Double down. This stage is definitely a step up from the first two. You get introduced to schisms, which, you know, you come into the stage for the first time, you're gonna notice how much more bulky they are compared to filths and strays, but, they shoot projectiles in a pretty easy-to-avoid way. They aren't direct, unlike strays. But, you know, if it's just them, they're pretty easy to deal with. But if you're in a room with more than just them, they're just more of additional hazards you have to watch out for. Outside of that, though, you do get access to the shotgun in this level, formally, through the swords machine. You take out his first stage near the start of the level, and once you take that out, he just jumps away and leaves the shotgun for you to pick up. And honestly, getting the shotgun after using the revolver for the first two stages again, it's kind of a breath of fresh air, since, you know, you aren't just locked to killing one enemy at a time. The shotgun just kind of gives you that general burst versatility of just being able to kill a bunch of filths at once. And the core eject is really nice too. You can do a lot with that later, but as it stands right now, it's just a solid tool. And obviously, I mean, like, you know, you finish the stage with fighting the second phase of the swords machine, which, you know, offers a few new attacks. But outside of that, though, the swords machine is, you know, it's a fight. It's a fight. Once you've gotten past that first initial fight with him, and, like, you know, you come back to revisit the stage, it's kind of just nothing. But, you know, for that first encounter, it serves its purpose. And I mean, with the kill only one enemy challenge, you technically can do some funny stuff with skipping a major portion of this level at the very start, since, you know, you technically loop back around to the start, you're only like 100 feet up. So, I mean, that's pretty easy on its own. You just have to kill the swords machine with both phases, which, you know, if you're doing the mission, you already at least have the shotgun, so doing both phases should make things a bit easier. But if you, for some odd reason, want to go into that fight with just the revolver on your first time to knock out that challenge, I mean, like, by all means, more power to you, I guess, but I don't know, you're basically just doing 0-2's challenge, only with a bit of height involved. So I think I'll just put it at the top of fun regardless. I know this is going to be a bit cluttered at the start, but I guarantee you the tier list will be a bit more varied once we get, like, you know, to the other layers. But I assure you, you know, there'll probably be some more standouts soon. Anyway, 0-4, a one-machine army. This stage is pretty short. I can only recall there's like 3 real fight rooms, I guess, before you're out of here, but there is the optional room with the 2 malicious faces if you want the health boost, which, I mean, you know, it's there, I guess. Outside of that, though, I mean, you know, the malicious face just comes back as a normal enemy now, but there really isn't much else. I mean, it's fun to, you know, optimize the first room if you really start to mess with the coins and the core eject, but if you're coming back here, you know, with your whole arsenal, I mean, there's some fun stuff you can do, but not much else, really. I mean, you're just in and out of here, really. I think it's just willing to revisit, because, I mean, it serves its purpose, but, I mean, it isn't really much of a standout as the other three. I mean, it's just kind of, I feel like it's just kind of there to, like, you know, fill that, you know, extra stage requirement of the prelude, since it has 5 stages opposed to 4, but, you know, it gets the job done. You're in and out. You can do some fun stuff in there, but there's better stuff you could probably go to. Alright, last stage in prelude. 05 Cerberus. You know, most boss stages in this game mostly just consist of you just traversing nothing for 30 seconds and then just walking into the boss fight, but, you know, I'm not gonna really penalize any stage for doing that in this case, but, you know, I'll just leave that note out there. But the walk to Cerberus, I mean, like, you know, for the first time, there's like a little bit of like some sliding you gotta do, but coming back here, you literally will just probably fly over there instead with some knockback. But the fight itself, I mean, you know, for the first big fight, I do think it stands out. I mean, like, you know, you walk into the room, sit there for 5-10 seconds, like, you know, what the fuck am I doing here? And then all of a sudden you just see one of the statues move and you're like, oh shit. I think it sets a tone. But outside of that, though, I mean, like, you know, the fight's just kind of alright. You know, it has a couple, you know, melee attacks. It has a ranged attack as well. I think the one thing that carries this fight is obviously, you know, it being so enclosed, because, you know, I mean, if it was more open, I guarantee you this probably wouldn't be as good of a fight. But once you come back here, I mean, I feel like this fight is definitely not really that great, since, I mean, as we go on to the later stages in the game, this just becomes your average common enemy. And coming back here just for, you know, to fight a beefier Cerberus, you know, it's just kind of eh. I mean, they can take more hits here, but outside of that, I mean, you probably know how to take these things down effectively. So I feel like for the first big fight, you know, it's probably fun the first time around, but, you know, you come back to it, it's just kind of lukewarm, I guess. Is the right way to put it. So I think I'm just going to put it in willing to revisit for now. I probably will change the order of some things as, you know, more things get on here, but as it stands right now, I do think Cerberus is likely the weakest Prelude has to offer. But I mean, like, it's not like, you know, like the fight is bad. It's more of just, you know, it's kind of just mad to come back to. And when you're there for the first time, you know, again, it just serves its purpose. I mean, you know, it just sets the tone, and you're about to go into hell. You know, things really just only go up from here. So all right, now for the special stage. Something Wicked, 0S. This stage is definitely a standout. I definitely think it sets the tone for all the special stages to come, because it's just completely out of the ordinary. You come in here, it's pitch black, there's a blue skull in front of you as your only source of light, and there's just something wicked out there. If something wicked even touches you, you just instantly die. So you basically just have to cautiously traverse this stage and just not get killed. But you just end up, like, traversing, finding a red skull, placing it on a pedestal, and you're out of there. There's a bit of lore, obviously, but you don't really have a reason to come back to this stage once you've already beat it. But it is fun, for the most part. So I don't think it deserves the status of has something going for it, not much else, because, I mean, like, you technically can replay it. There is some replay value for it. There just isn't any side objectives or anything. It's just there. But I do think it's probably going to remain at the lowest end of willing to revisit once we're through everything. Okay, Limbo. Starting Limbo off is 1-1 Heart of the Sunrise. You know, entering Hell for the first time, I think it's really funny that they set the tone with, you know, a fake environment with boxes that literally just have bird noises. Definitely funny coming into that, but we do get introduced to one new enemy type and a new weapon, and I guess I'll just start off with that new enemy type. The drones, you know, I think they're pretty fun. They kind of serve the function as just airborne strays with more projectiles, but they also, upon death, will try to kamikaze you, and you can actually parry them into enemies around you, and I think that's just really fun to do. Very satisfying to do as well. Outside of that, though, the weapon, the nail gun, is kind of just really satisfying to use. If you've used a minigun any other video game out there, you probably will get the same feeling with it. It's just mowing down a bunch of enemies. Only difference is, I mean, you aren't, you know, on cooldown with the shotgun's reload time. The only real cooldown you have is just the ammo, which, I mean, like, you know, if you're using all the ammo at that point, I mean, probably doing something wrong. But outside of that, there's a bunch of branching pathways in this level for secrets, the skulls, and actually, you know what, I guess it's best to start talking about this now. Limbo actually has 4 buttons scattered across the layer, and at the very end, the first one is in above a glass panel, which you can just get up to. But the buttons are laid out in very interesting locations, and I feel like it's I mean, I definitely have to talk about them, so they'll unlock something important later, but we'll talk about it once we get to 1-4. So overall, I mean, replaying this stage, I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can do, especially if you come back with let me bring up the name for it. The Whiplash, yeah. The Whiplash can let you do some funny stuff with the skulls, and, I mean, once you get some more explosive weapons, I mean, like, things just start dropping like flies. It's great. I do think this stage is arguably fantastic all around. And I guess I should also talk about the challenge real quick, since, I mean, it's entirely correlated with the secret exit. If you throw a coin into the fountain, you can literally finish the stage in under 3 seconds, which is both comedic and, well, I mean, it also just fills the challenge, so. Overall, great stage. Definitely sets a good tone for Limbo. And then we get to 1-2, the Burning World. Okay, in retrospect, this stage isn't that bad. It's actually still pretty fun. It's just, you get introduced to arguably the most annoying enemy in the game, and that is the street cleaner. And, yeah, they're just annoying as fuck. When they're in clumps, they'll just mow you down with their flamethrowers, and the only real way you can deal with them effectively is by shooting a coin at their backpacks, and you can only do that when the coin is behind them. Outside of that, though, I mean, like, they're basically just schisms, but they can also dodge some of your attacks, too, so it's just more of being patient with them, shooting your coin when you have the right opportunity, and just knocking them out one by one. Outside of that, though, the stage is still fine by itself. You start the stage by going to find the blue skull, placing it on a pedestal to go pick up the red one, so on and so forth, and just finishing it there. But there is a little bit of a side quest for the second button. In the room with the health up, you can actually break this part of the wall, and it leads you into this, like, funny little area where a cancerous rodent lies. It's, like, meant to be, like, a little funny haha, but you walk out and there's an even bigger one, and you're just like, oh shit, so. You can kind of consider the bigger cancerous rodent like a mini-boss, but I feel like it's so easy. You can argue it's not, but I think it's just better to just say it is one. It's a cancerous rodent. Come on, bro. It's great. Outside of that, though, there is a shortcut you can use when revisiting the stage with the rail cannon, which is just fun all around to use, and you need it for the secret mission, but overall, you know, for the introduction of street cleaners, I feel like it does set a tone. You know, there's definitely going to be more annoying enemies you have to deal with later on in the game, and if you can't handle the street cleaner, then tough luck, you know? So I think I'll place this stage in Arguably... actually... You know... I think I'm willing to place this in fun to play regardless. Mostly because, I mean, like, okay, the street cleaners, they aren't at their worst here. Especially since it's their introductory level. And you can technically skip it with the railkin on repeat plays, but... It's not a bad stage even if you have to fight with them. It's still worth your time if you're doing a full Limbo playthrough. Alright, 1-3. Halls of Sacred Remains. I have a lot to say about the stage. I think it is definitively the best stage in Act 1. And I think it just comes down to the fact that there's branching pathways. When you start this stage, you need to get one skull to unlock the final room. And there's just two ways you can go. One way leads to the blue skull, and one way leads to the red skull. Doesn't matter which one you get. One will unlock the final door, and one's harder than the other. But no matter which route you take, both are wild rides. Very fun rooms, just very hectic all around in a good way. And if you actually end up getting both skulls and putting them on the respective pedestals, you get an optional encounter with 2 swords machines that are colored red and blue. They're named Tundra and Agony, which I think if memory serves is supposed to be a reference to Devil May Cry 3, which is really funny, but... Overall, I mean, the music also just sells the scene as well, which I think just makes it even more fun. Probably a personal bias here, but that's just how I feel. And when you get to the final room, you fight this hideous mass, which is such a jump, like, and just like, holy shit, it's massive, it's strong, it could probably kick my ass. And you know, when you're going through it the first time, it probably will give you some trouble, but you know, it has some, like, you know, it has patterns that you can just deal with once you play it through once or twice, and like you can get through it pretty quickly. And you know, if it's somehow even giving you that much trouble, there is a hidden soap in the level that you can just use on the hideous mass to insta-kill it, which I just think is funny. I mean, they didn't need to put it there, but they did anyway, and I just think that's funny on its own. Also gives bonus points to this level, but... Yeah, I think this is our first nutty level. Like, I just don't think there's even a question for it. Like, there's so much this stage offers. It's fun to play no matter how you play it. And I mean, like, if you want to go for the extras too, I mean, like, they're worth your time. And, like, just overall really fun. And, like, you know, you come back here and fight the hideous mass with your full artist arsenal, and it's just, I can't describe how satisfying it is to just mow down that hideous mass in a matter of seconds. Like, dude, it's just crazy. I love it. This stage is definitely worth replaying, like, every single time. Alright, 1-4. Clair to LUNE. I think I have a bit of a controversial take with this stage, but I'll start with the good first. This stage sets the tone very well for what is about to come. You have to go on a scavenger hunt for 3 skulls. And while you're doing that, they hint at V2's existence before you even fight him. And, you know, that's fun in its own right. Outside of that, though, the 4th button, I did not even talk about the 3rd button. The 3rd button was in the Tundra and Agony fight in 1-3. But once you hit that button, as well as 1-4's button, alongside all the other buttons, you get access to a hidden room in this stage, and it gets you the revolver alternate, which is basically just a stronger revolver, but it has a bit more of a cooldown in between shots. Overall, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I prefer it when I use the piercing variant, but I don't even bother with the marksman variant, since splitting coins to hit more enemies I just think is more versatile than just having the coin strike one enemy but for more. But I mean, hey, some people probably have a preference for it, so, you know, more power to you. And then there's the V2 fight. So personally, when you're coming into this fight for the first time after the hideous mass, I think it's an amazing fight. It really just makes you just test everything. I mean, he has predictable patterns, but you just don't know that right away. You're just like, holy shit, just stop being annoying. But once you learn the fight, it's really fun. It's really fun. It's very hectic. You're bouncing off the walls. He's bouncing off the walls. You're just trying to outlive him. And you get the Knuckle Blaster for beating him, which is an alternate for your hand. You can't parry with it, but it deals knockback and damage. More damage than the blue arm, the feedbacker. And if there is one tool in my arsenal I use the least, it's still the Knuckle Blaster, and I'm still trying to get used to it, but those people that can use it effectively know its power. It's definitely worth your time. On revisits of the stage, though, I mean, like, outside the P rank, I do think it's... I mean, okay, you come here with your full arsenal after, like, you've beaten the entire game. I think people can understand why I'm, like, it's a little underwhelming. And it's probably because there's another V2 fight in Act 2, which is significantly better. But if this was, you know, before Act 2 got released, I mean, like, I think this probably is the standout of, you know, Act 1. But, you know, there's also, you know, P1. But, you know, we'll get there when we get there. But I think I'm going to put it at the top of Willing to Revisit, because, I mean, look, you play Limbo, you're playing one for it, you're fighting V2. But, I mean, I don't think it's, like, super standout. I mean, it's not on the level of Cerberus, which, I mean, like, is literally just a common enemy, but bulkier. V2 is V2. Like, there's no getting around that, but it is a lot. It's a little bit more underwhelming when you have your full arsenal. So I definitely think it stands out when you're there for the first time, but when you come back, it's just kind of okay. Alright, and now we have the bonus stage for Limbo. 1S the Witless. Not really much to say about this stage other than it's probably the most underwhelming bonus stage in Ultrakill so far, but it's just entirely comprised of puzzles. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, you know, once you play this stage once, you don't really have any reason to go back to it, like, ever. I mean, the environment changes as you go through each door, but, I mean, you know, the puzzles don't change at all whatsoever, no matter how many times you play it. So, and I doubt, like, you're trying to, like, play this for the puzzles after the first time you play it, so I don't know, it's just kind of there, I guess, you know, to fill that, you know, wacky bonus stage criteria. Other than that, though, I mean, despite it not actually having an official P rank, I can't put it any other way, really. It's just get in there, complete it, get out. It's really all you gotta do. That's 1S. Right up next, we have the Lust Lair, starting with 2-1 BRIDGEBURNER. I appreciate the fact that this stage has a false identity for the first minute, you know? You hop into stage, you're walking around, it's looking a lot like Prelude, and you're just kind of like, this is more of the same. And then you hop on the bounce pad, and you're like, this is not the same. But no, yeah, things just pick up a lot once you hop on the bridge, you know? Things get a lot more fun, especially with the fact that it's very easy to fall off the bridge, be it by your own movements, enemy knockback, or your own knockback. It just creates a lot of funny scenarios while you're killing baddies, and, like, you know, you fall off, and you're gonna fall for, like, a good 5 seconds, and there's a couple bounce pads that you can, you know, go run to get back up, but I appreciate the fact that it's, like, you're actually, like, probably thousands of feet up from, like, the Lust City. I don't know. I just like that aspect a lot. And, of course, the corpse of King Minos is just doing his own thing in the background, too, which is a nice touch. But overall, though, very fun stage. One of my favorite pastimes, I guess, is to come back to the stage with the malicious rail cannon and using this funny combo with the core eject with it, and you're just able to fly across this entire stage with it. It's so fun to do. And this stage, I mean, the stage does have a challenge for, like, not opening any normal doors, and you're just supposed to fly across, like, the 2 buildings to get to the exit, but with the malicious rail cannon, you could arguably just get there in one boost, and it's really funny. I don't know. It's just also very satisfying to pull off once you know how to do it. There probably is a better explanation out there for it than my tier list video, so I mean, if you're curious about it, maybe go watch a speedrun video for this stage, or maybe just look up Core Eject plus malicious rail cannon. Oh my god. I think I'm gonna put this in the top of fun to play regardless. Actually, no, I'm gonna put up in fantastic all around. I think it's earned its spot, because it is really fun to just mess around in this stage, be it your first time around, or even just coming back with just more stuff to push V1 around, you know? Overall, just very fun to toy with. Alright, 2-2, death at 20,000 volts. This stage is really fun. 80% of the stage is town, and because 80% of the stage is town, there's just a lot of stuff to go look at. You know, your main objective is really just to break these electric panels to go, you know, open up some doors, but there's just a lot of stuff to see, be it secrets or just, you know, visuals, really. There is a bit of lore in this stage, too, if you want to go search that out, but we are introduced to 2 new things, one of them being a new enemy type with the soldier. They're basically just strays, but only stronger. They're a bit more bulky, they're immune to explosions, they shoot more projectiles, and they actually will smack you if you get too close to them. I like them a lot, especially since they look like Pepsi Man, so, you know, bonus points for that. But this is also the stage that formally introduces you how to parry, which, I mean, like, you know, if you somehow haven't figured that out yet, congratulations. The game will teach the game will teach you right now. But none of that even comes close to what you get right after that, and that is the fucking rail cannon. The rail cannon is probably my favorite weapon in the game, only because it serves one function, and it does it very well. It's massive burst damage on cooldown. You start off with the electric variant, which is just, like, piercing. And you can honestly set up some funny stuff, especially with the coin, if you want to look that up. Highly encourage people to go look up rail coining if they're ever interested in some fun facts of how to kill bosses quickly, but, outside of that, every enemy we've seen up to this point will most likely die to the rail cannon. There's only, I think, 2 exceptions with, like, the Cerberus and the malicious face, but overall, the stage also just has some fun dynamics with its geometry. Like, again, with it just being mostly town, I mean, you can just hide inside buildings, you can hide on top of roofs, like, there's just a lot of fun stuff you can do, just, you know, like, just play it, man. Just play it for yourself. It's a blast to just bounce off walls and just blow people up on this stage. Honestly, it's pretty nutty. I don't think it hits the same high as 1-3, but, you know, with the environment itself, it's just very fun to play around the stage and, like, do it fast. And, like, with the... I mean, the challenge is literally beat in under 60 seconds, so you know it was kind of made to be beaten fast, but, you know, overall, very pleasant time. Would recommend. I think it's the highlight of the last layer. Alright, up next we have 2-3, Sheer Heart Attack. This stage is... okay, well, it's pretty good. I don't know why I'm questioning it. I do think it is the weakest of the 3 big levels in Lust outside of the boss stage. But, like, everything so far in Lust is, like, been pretty good, and this one's pretty good as well. It's a bit more, I guess, clunky with its environments, but it's honestly not a bad downgrade compared to what we had in 2-2 and 2-1. You're basically just hunting for 2 skulls again in this stage, starting with a blue one and then a red one, but outside of that, there's a little bit of waterness stage as well, which, I mean, like, you know, you can mess around with that, see the physics there, which, you know, we'll get to Wrath when we get there, but, I mean, you get a little bit of a taste here, I guess. Outside of that, though, you are introduced to the final new enemy in Act 1, the Mind Flayer, which, you know, it's a baddie. It's a toughie, man. You can't cheese it with just the rail cannon. It's gonna shoot projectiles. It's gonna shoot a beam. The beam's unparryable, but the projectiles can be parryable. But I mean, good luck shooting that thing back at the Mind Flare, because that thing teleports like every 5 seconds. It's not necessarily annoying, but, you know, when there's other things around you, it definitely becomes a pressing matter, because, I mean, that thing will fucking kill you. So, I usually just opt to kill it first, because, I mean, otherwise it's just gonna dink me once or twice, and when it dies, it actually explodes too, so you have to be wary about your distance to the Mind Flare when that happens, but outside of that, though, the stage is still pretty fun. There is a minor detour for the secret exit with disabling the water, and you have to find 3 electrical panels scattered across the level to drain the water, and that gets you access to 2S, which is definitely a pleasant surprise. We'll get there in just a couple of minutes, but overall, I think this stage is still pretty fun. I think I'm debating on whether to put it in fantastic all around or fun to play regardless, because it's not a bad stage at all. Honestly, I think I'll put it at the very bottom of fantastic all around. But I might be subject to change this, because I don't feel comfortable placing this right next to just prelude stages, which is funny, because, I mean, that's mostly what fun to play regardless has right now, but it's definitely not even close to these at all, so I think that warrants it, you know, a tier placement above, so congratulations. Lust has been nothing but bangers so far. And, you know, while I'm at it, you know what? Let's just take this down a peg, because I definitely think, Lust has just been too good so far. It just topples 1-1. I'm sorry. Sorry, Limbo. I mean, you don't got what Lust got, unless you're 1-3. I'm sorry. And now we get to talk about 2-4. Court of the Corpse King. That big husk we've been seeing in the background of Lust this entire time. Yeah, it's finally time to go say hello to him. Oh, boy. His fight's pretty fun. You know, it starts with a big build-up. You know, you're riding this little car, this cart. You pick up a blue skull, you ride it again, you fight his arm, and you're just like, oh boy, it's got 5 giant fingers, and it's just slamming everywhere. But it's nothing really that extraordinary. You ride the cart some more, pick up a red skull, place it down its pedestal, and that's when the real fight starts. I think I love this fight for one reason alone, and if that one reason wasn't there, I think this fight would be a lot more shallow, and that's the fact that you can parry his fucking punches. There's something satisfying about seeing a giant about to crush you with his knuckles, and then you just being able to parry it back and dealing so much damage. Like, I don't know, it's satisfying. It really is. Outside of that, though, I mean, his fight is pretty predictable. You know, he's got a lot of predictable patterns with his punches. He shoots out this, like, you know, this black hole, and, you know, it's a very slow projectile, but, you know, if it somehow manages to hit you, you're gonna be reduced down to 1 health for a while. The only other notable standout thing in this fight is when he gets down to half health, which, you know, that's when the funny little parasites come out of his eyes and, you know, start shooting projectiles at you. Otherwise, really wasn't much else in the fight. It's just very satisfying to be able to parry his punches, and, you know, because of that, I think it just gets a lot of bonus points for that. So, I think I'm gonna put it, in the top of fun to play regardless, just because, you know, it's a fun fight when you get there, and, you know, I really don't mind replaying it at all, so, and I mean, once you play it once, you don't really even need to ride the minecart at all. You've gotten that experience. You can just dash right over there and just get the job done. So, I mean, no harm in that. So, overall, I think Lust was just an absolute banger all around. And, oh boy, we're gonna get to talk about, 2S now. Oh boy. I don't even know where to start about this, other than, like, okay, just to get out of the way, it is going in the lowest tier, but actually, you know what? No, I'm gonna give it some credit. It has a little bit of replay value. There's a couple dialogue options you can pick at the very start, but you know what? We'll put it in. Has something going for it, but not much else. But I need to reiterate this, okay? because I'm placing it here does not mean it's bad at all. I think it is probably the most funny fucking, like, special stage in the game, and for good reason. You can't tell me in any other reality where a developer would make a visual novel joke in a doomer shooter, I guess. Like, I don't know, I can't make it up. Like, you can go watch it for yourself if you want, but I mean, like, it really is a highlight of Ultrakill. Just, you know, you complete that side objective in 2-3, and you're greeted with probably the most outrageous side quest you've ever seen. Especially for a game like this. Once you play it, though, I mean, there really isn't much else. I mean, like, there's a couple dialogue options you can pick, which, I mean, like, you know, alright, but I mean, that's the curse of a visual novel, really. I mean, you play it once, that's really it. It's like a book. You read it once, I mean, you technically can read it again, but you already know what happens, so. Overall, though, I mean, I couldn't envision a different extra stage for the Lust layer. I mean, it's literally perfect. Like, you cannot top it. So overall, because it's perfect, I'm gonna put it and it has something going for it, not much else, but I do think it kind of fits in the same category as 1S, just with the fact that there really isn't any point to go revisit it, but, you know, really funny. It's really funny, unlike 1S, where it's literally just complete some puzzles and you're done. So massive props, Lust Layer. You did good. You did good. You amused me. 10 out of 10. Anyway, now we get to talk about Gluttony. Oh boy. Gluttony is a very special case compared to its Layer 1 and 2 counterparts. Gluttony only has 3 stages, and 2 of them are basically boss stages, so there isn't really much to cover here outside of 3-1, so we'll just get started with Belly of the Beast here. Belly of the Beast, I think it just serves the purpose of it being a giant recap stage of just Act 1. You know, every enemy you fought up to this point is here in a creative way, and, you know, it's just very fun all around, especially when the music starts hyping up halfway into the stage from Guts to Glory. I really like that aspect in this stage. And, you know, the stomach acid is also just, I mean, it isn't necessarily like a super fun touch, but, you know, like, it's an interesting hazard. I mean, the challenge has you trying to kill a mind flare in acid, which I think is kind of funny, but, you know, outside of that, it's really fun to play the first time around, and it's just as fun to come back here with everything in your arsenal. I mean, nothing really changes. It still serves a very good challenge, especially when you're trying to ground out a P rank. I know I haven't really been talking about P ranks at all throughout Act 1, but I think part of that has to do with the fact that, you know, you're playing through Act 1 with not a full arsenal the first time around, and I think the game tries to account for that, so style points aren't super high, or, like, you know, they aren't as demanding as Act 2's P ranks. So, you know, if you genuinely wanted to just, you know, really try to P rank some of Act 1 stages with just like 2 or 3 weapons, you could probably do that, especially with Prelude. Prelude isn't super demanding with, you know, trying to be stylish at all. It's mostly just, you know, don't really get hit, don't die, and you should be fine. But once you get into, like, the later layers of Act 1, you know, you do have to start diversifying a little bit. And 3-1 is basically just, you know, alright, this is it. You know. And I feel like getting a P rank on 3-1 is pretty satisfying as well. So I'm gonna put it in Fantastic all around. I think it does triumph, I don't know. I think it does go above 2-1. You know, 2-1 is fun because, you know, there's a lot of stuff to toy around with, but 3-1 is fun for a different reason. It's more of just, like, you know, it's the satisfying conclusion to Act 1. It serves as a good, like, you know, end challenge before you head into the final fight. And it serves its purpose well, so props to you, 3-1. And here we are, 3-2, in the flesh. This holds the big climactic fight against Gabriel in Act 1, and, you know, for the big climactic fight, it's a good fight. It's a very well done fight, you know. Gabriel's a good opponent, you know. The first 30 seconds entering this level, he's just talking down on you, man. He does not like your presence. He does not like machines. And you know what? You walk in there, you beat him up, and he's not happy to lose to the machine, you know. It's great all around. The first time around, though, you probably will have a couple game overs. He's pretty fast, you know. It might be a little hard to grasp how to dodge his axes and lances at first, as well as his swords, but once you understand, you know, just like how to dash accordingly, Gabriel's pretty easy to deal with. It's mostly just getting those shots in between his attacks that can be hard. But you know, that's why the coin's there, I guess. Makes things a bit easier. And yeah, I don't have much else to say really about this fight. You know, it's just a fun fight, really. A great conclusion to Act 1. I think I'm gonna put it in Fantastic All Around right below 3-1, just because even though it's a boss fight, Ultrakill in its current day definitely has some higher highs for bosses, but if I had to rank each boss so far, it definitely is the best boss so far. But I think we all know that's going to be very much toppled with our next pick over here, but we might as well get talking about P1, I guess. So P1, Soul Survivor. This stage is a very special case in the fact that you can only play it once you have P-ranked every single stage in Act 1, which in this case is Prelude plus Limbo plus Lust plus Gluttony. So you're going to be spending a lot of time just grinding out these P-ranks, but once you do, you get access to arguably the best fight in Ultrakill so far, and for good reason. But the stage starts off you just ascending this spine, and once you get to the bottom of it, you're immediately thrown into the fight, which is against the Flesh Prison. And oh boy, it's a mouthful, quite literally. It has a bunch of attacks that it's going to throw at you. It spawns these eyes, it spawns these beams of light, it spawns the black hole you saw from the corpse of King Minos, and it'll just spin around and throw green projectiles at you. And if you're not fast about all of it, it's just going to heal off of the eyeballs it spawns, and it can be very overwhelming. It requires you to really just use everything in your toolkit to really just make it work. But once you knock him down, that's when the real fight begins. You get introduced to Minos Prime in all of his glory. And let me just say it right here, right now. Minos Prime is an expertly crafted fight. Holy shit. Like, when you enter that fight for the first time, you will die a lot. And that's perfectly understandable. But the real reason why this fight is that magical is the fact that everything is telegraphed perfectly. Like, be it a voice line or something else. Like, you can play around it if you just know. And when you're finally at that level where you can just, you know, on the fly, just predict what he's gonna do and just react to it accordingly, it's just the most satisfying thing in the world. Like, Minos Prime is the definition of, like, a nutty fight, and I think it takes the cake for probably the highest spot on this tier list. And, you know, as we go through the entirety of Act 2, I am almost 90% certain that this spot will not change at all. Like, I genuinely think by the time I finish this tier list, that P1 will still remain the top spot in Nutty. And, you know, I think it deserves that spot wholeheartedly. Minos Prime, as well as the Flesh Prison, really just cement the fact of just what an amazing fight should be in this game. You know, maybe I'm, like, you know, gushing about it too much, but, you know, just all I can say is really just play it. Like, just play it more than once and just understand the fight. And, you know, once you get to that level, you'll understand why so many people will enjoy this fight. Like, Minos Prime is is the reason why you go back to play Ultrakill sometimes. And I know for a fact when P2 and P3 releases, there's gonna be some contenders for best fight in Ultrakill. So, hey, they did a great job.
And with that, we are done ranking the entirety of Act 1. Props to me for making it this far. But I think it's time we start ranking the Act 2 stages. Act 2, at least in its current form, only has one special stage, so there's only 11 stages to rank, but this will likely change in the future. I don't plan on making an updated version of this tier list, but, you know, when full game comes out, I'll probably consider it, so I guess we'll just get started with 4-1 over here. 4-1 Slaves to Power has 3 indoor segments and 3 outdoor segments. All of them are pretty fun, but the indoor segments are where the stage truly shines. And it probably has to do with the fact that it's a brand new enemy type. The Virtues. The Virtues are a welcome addition in my book. They shoot these light beam attacks every couple of seconds. And while it's pretty easy to avoid, they can hurt you if you aren't paying attention. And if you somehow leave them alone for a good while, they'll get angry and start trying to predict your movements. So, there's that comedic aspect about them. But the last thing I guess I'll touch on about this stage is the power-up that lies at the very end. There's only one power-up currently in Ultrakill, and this basically just gives you an extra gun for a short period. So you can have 2 shotguns, 2 rail cannons, 2 revolvers, so on and so forth. And the game obviously accounts for that, but I won't deny the fact that this power-up is just fun to use. You know, there's a certain satisfaction of just throwing 2 coins up in the air and just hitting 4 enemies with the split shot, or just, you know, shooting 2 rail cannons into 1 Cerberus and just it entirely going down. So overall, I think with what this stage introduces, it's just pretty fun to play, and for the first stage in Act 2, I think it's just fantastic all around. I think I'm gonna place it above 2-3. I don't want to sound like I'm based this entirely off of just first-time playthrough. It's fun to come back to, especially since when you come back here and know how to, you know, bounce around the stages a bit more, you can beat this stage in under 10 seconds. There's a breakable wall on the ceiling of 4-1's final room, and you can break that and just instantly clear the stage in a matter of seconds, so I like that aspect a lot. But 4-1 is just a fun ride all around. Yeah, 4-2. God damn, the sun. It's a pretty fun ride all around. You enter the stage, and the first thing it shows you is how sand is dangerous, which I like a lot. But 10 seconds later, we're also introduced to sanded opponents, which I do not like. Sanded opponents aren't bad. It's more of just, you know, a skill check, really. You can't heal off of sanded opponents, so you have to really be extra careful about where you are and where you dish damage, so I mean, most of the time, there'll probably be non-sanded opponents alongside sanded opponents in 4-2, so it's more of a matter of just killing the sanded opponents first, and then healing off of the non-sanded opponents, but they also introduced the Stalker, which is, I feel like I can't even consider this an enemy, because it serves one function, and it's to sand other enemies around it. Like, it disappears the moment it drops its sand pack on somebody, and that's all it does. It never tries to charge you at all. Its only purpose is just to sand other enemies, which, you know, I guess it's something. I guess it offers for different gameplay, but overall, I mean, the Stalker isn't much of a standout, so the stage itself, though, is pretty fun. Once you get to the building, it's basically just pick up Skull 1 and Skull 2 to summon the Siphon Insurrectionist at the very end, but you are given more of that power-up you saw in 4-1, and that's always a plus, and both rooms are enclosed enough to where the Virtues just
make things a bit more dynamic, I guess. I don't know, you can't really be that brain dead in both rooms if you actually want to get out of it alive. So, I like that. And the Siphon Insurrectionist itself is a very fun fight. So, if you somehow haven't managed to learn what iframes are with your dashes, this fight will teach you in a pretty demanding way. And I like that aspect a lot, so. And it's bulky enough, too, to where, like, if you've been trying to cheese the game with just, like, 1 or 2 weapons so far, it's basically just gonna stop you right here. When I head into this fight the first time, I was one of those people that kept spamming the shotgun a bunch, and this was the fight where I actually had to stop and say, alright, you know what? I can't just use the shotgun anymore, so. And that's when I finally learned how to use my full toolkit, so. Thank you, Siphon Insurrectionist. You get bonus points for getting me out of my comfort zone, so. Overall, I think I'm gonna put it up here. Fantastic all around, because for what it adds, like, it adds some good things. The stage itself is still very fun all around. I don't really have any gripes with it other than just, you know, sanded opponents are annoying, but they aren't the same level as, like, let's say the street cleaners, which I mean, like, you know, they're street cleaners. All you have to do about sanded opponents is just don't play reckless, and you'll be fine, so. And I mean, the stalkers are just kind of like a whatever addition, so. Oh, and one more thing. I didn't even touch on the secret exit for 4-2. The puzzle for 4-2's secret exit is pretty fun to do. If you're one of those people that really likes searching every nook and cranny of each stage, you'll definitely get a kick out of this one. You have to find this button on the side of the big building, and hitting that unlocks a secret room on the other side of the building. Grants you access to this moon idol that has to go on the pedestal on top of the big building. And once you do that, it literally switches to night, so you can walk on sand, and once you're able to walk on the sand, you can just walk behind spawn, and boom, there's just a secret exit just there waiting for you. I like that a lot, but overall, I'm pretty excited to talk about the secret stage once we get there, but just thought I'd mention that. Alright, now time for 4-3, a shot in the dark. I like the atmosphere of this stage, but playing it's a little bit of a different story. It's not a bad stage, it's just, it's not on the same level as 4-1 or 4-2 so far. And it probably has to do with its enclosed spaces as well as one room in particular, which, I mean, you technically can play differently. It's just how I play it, but. You start off the stage lighting torches like it's a Zelda puzzle, and you're then greeted with this giant square room with 4 torches just waiting to be lit. You can light one at a time, and lighting one torch spawns one wave of enemies, but you can light all 4 to just fight all 4 waves at once. And there's technically a power-up in the ceiling if you know how to get up there, but it just opens up when you light all 4 anyway, so. That room is a bit hectic if you try to fight all 4, but if you're going for the P rank, you're basically doing it, so. That is a little unfun in its own right, but I mean, like, hey, a P rank is a P rank, I suppose. And I'd be okay with it if it wasn't for the final room, which we'll get to in just a sec. But once you finish that room, you can technically deviate to this side room, which, I don't even know what to say about it, really, other than it just holds a really interesting secret boss, I guess, is the right way to put it. I don't know. If you want to go play it, it's pretty fun. I appreciate the hidden novelty of that fight, but it isn't required, including for the P rank. And if you actually wanted to go for the secret challenge in this stage, not involving picking up the torch, you do have to go into this room and pick up the blue skull so you can activate the final room. But The final room itself, oh boy. When I was first originally playing Greed, I was stumped on this room because it's hectic, it's fast-paced, and if you stand still at any point in time, you will get murked. Like, it's just a fact. Whenever I enter this room now, I am just constantly moving, just shooting coins in the air, and just trying to kill whatever I can without getting killed myself. It's a very hectic room, to put it lightly. I probably could handle it differently, but I think outside of that one time I finally got that P rank, I can't come back to this room without like a little bit of a PTSD, just because I died so many times in this room. This room it's hard. It's genuinely hard. And I mean, if you're not well seasoned with your toolkit up to this point, you probably will get stumped as well. So overall, though, I think it's fine. It being a more enclosed stage after 4-1 and 4-2, I think gives itself its own identity, but I do think it's the weakest the Greed later has to offer, so I think I'm just gonna put it in willing to revisit. Like, once you understand how to do the final room well, I think it's definitely the highlight, but for the most part, you are just traversing little corridors, lighting torches, and, you know, the few fights you do have, I feel like they're a lot more chaotic than anything you've seen up until this point, and I think you can argue that's a bad thing in some ways, but also good in other ways. But at least for me, I obviously, I guess, just have an impact with this stage, with its final room. So for that reason, I think I'm just going to take it a couple pegs down and just put in willing to revisit. Like, when I play Grid, I'm still playing it through and through, so at least it at least has that title going for it. And now I finally get to talk about why I placed 1-4 so low in this tier list, because, hey, we're finally at 4-4, CLAIR to SOLEIL, you know. The boss stage that has the better V2 fight. This entire stage starts off just ascending a pyramid for 30 seconds, and, you know, the first time around, you probably haven't figured out that V2 was just waiting for you at the top of this, and when you finally see him in that room, you're just like, oh, fuck, not again. Because you probably had so much trouble the first time around, but I mean, your toolkit's a lot bigger opposed to last time, and so is his, and you're both gonna just be bouncing off the walls the entire time you're in here, and it's actually got 2 phases this time. The second phase isn't much, but, you know, sliding down the pyramid as you guys are just trying to kill each other, I think is probably one of the coolest scenes Ultrakill has to offer in this point in time. Like, I don't know, it's just a cool moment. It truly is. And while V2 canonically dies at this point, you do get access to the Whiplash, which is, it's a very fun tool. It's a very fun tool. Like, there's a certain satisfaction of just pulling yourself to larger enemies and just pulling smaller enemies directly towards you. You can't spam it, though, otherwise the game will actually cap out your health, which, not very fun when you're only at 20 HP, but it's a great tool for just, you know, getting around places fast, because, I mean, I guarantee you, when we talk about the Wrath layer, the Whiplash really just makes your life a lot easier, and if you just did not have this tool in your arsenal, I guarantee you Wrath would be so much harder, because, okay, you know, I'll leave it for when we get the 5-1. Just know the Whiplash makes aspects of Wrath bearable. And then there's the alternate you get once you've beaten V2 again, the Saw Blade Launcher. This is a fun side grade of the nail gun. I personally don't use it, but I can't help but talk about the fact that it's very fun to use when going back to visit old bosses, just because there's some funny things you can do to set up fast kills, and that aspect is just pretty fun. Other than that, though, I just like having both nail guns on me, rather than just one nail gun and the saw blade. But, you know, some people probably prefer this thing. I just don't. Overall, though, this stage, with what it offers, I think it's just fucking nutty. I think I'm gonna put it at the bottom of nutty. But overall, just a fantastic fight. I genuinely believe it tops the first V2 fight in every single way. Like, the first V2 fight at least has, like, you know, some stuff you can do before the fight. But, like, you're only going to be doing that once. Or maybe twice if you just somehow didn't hit every single button. But why would you go back to the first V2 fight when there's just a better V2 fight in Greed? I mean, I don't know what else to say, really. Like, I guess if you want nostalgia, you can fight both fights, but I don't know. If I had to pick one or the other, I mean, there's just one that literally blasts the other one out of the park. I'm sorry, bro. And now we have 4S, Clash of the Bandicoot. Oh boy. As the bonus stage for Greed, I think it's very funny that they just made a Crash Bandicoot level, and, you know, bonus points for that. It's a very fun stage to play, and, you know, if you break enough crates, you actually unlock Clash Mode, which is basically just this style of V1, but you can just play it in any stage so far in Ultrakill. Like, it might just be kind of a novelty, but I do appreciate the fact that you can go play the entirety of Ultrakill in Clash Mode and just have an entirely different take on Ultrakill. I don't know. Like, the fact that there's one bonus stage that allows you to play the entire game in a different way, like, I think that's just really fucking cool. I like that a lot, and I think for that alone, I actually might place this in Fantastic All Around. It's getting a bit crowded up here, but, like, I don't know. You take a bonus stage that literally gives you an entirely new way to play Ultrakill, and I feel like I can't place it, like, even middle of the road here. Like, I think... I think I'll place it... I'll place it down here. I'll place it down here. It serves a very fun side attraction if you just don't feel like beating shit up today. Or if you just want to beat shit up in a completely funny and wacky way. A comical way, even. But overall, I think Greed was a very solid layer. Anyway, it's finally time to start talking about Layer 5, Wrath, and I'll be honest, I definitely think it is the weakest layer so far in Ultrakill, but we'll start with 5-1. We'll start with 5-1 in the wake of Poseidon. It's for the most part fine, you know. You look at most water levels in video games, and they're usually mediocre or lukewarm, but I think for Ultrakill's case, it subverts that expectation. It's a pretty fun water level. That being said, though, you're on the hunt for 3 skulls, and they're all in their own respective rooms, and I think some rooms are more annoying than others, but overall, I think this is where the Whiplash truly shines, though, because, I mean, you know, getting across this water level, it can be a little wonky at times, especially with your increased jump height underwater, but overall, I mean, the rooms are fun enough, and when you're going through this the first time around, I think you'll have a pleasant time. You do get introduced to the sentries at the very end, which, you know, they're okay. They're okay. They aren't amazing, but they aren't bad. They serve a function, and they do it well enough. I like that there's many ways to actually stop their impending doom shots, but outside of that, they're just kind of a more forgettable enemy. But, I mean, hey, I guess Wrath needed something, right? Coming back here for revisits, though, it's okay. It's not amazing. It's mostly just a little annoying at times, since, you know, I think knockback is just increased overall when you're underwater. So, I mean, you might just go flying a bit more than you normally expect, but you're also just a lot more floaty all around in some of these rooms, and it's just a little annoying trying to get yourself back on your feet with what you're trying to do. So, you have to play around that. I found the P rank for this stage to be pretty hard as well, which, I mean, like, you know, if you're at this stage in the game, getting a P rank is going to be hard all around, but I feel it a little bit more, especially with the water physics, so I'm going to put it in willing to revisit, just because, I mean, despite it being, like, a pretty good water level, I do think it's good for that first time, and then it's just kind of like, it's just kind of okay. It's not amazing. I think it beats... Yeah, it beats the Prelude stuff. Like, I feel like I can't even compare it to these because they're so basic in their, like, own forms, but, you know, at least the stuff... At least Wrath starts with, like, its own identity, and, like, you know, it sticks with that, whether it's good or not. And you know what? I guess props to sticking with that, I guess. With that in mind, we're finally talking about 5-2, Waves of the Starless Sea. If I had to pick a bad Ultrakill level, this is it. Waves of the Starless Sea is the bad Ultrakill level, and I feel like there's several reasons why, and I'll start with the first one. When you enter the stage, there is very little ground to stand on. You will most likely fall at least 3 times before you enter the buildings in the middle of the stage, and it's not fun, really. It really isn't. It's more frustrating than fun. Like, at least with 2-1, where you're on the bridge, like, you at least fall for 5 seconds and can, like, you know, get back on the stage through the bounce pads. Here, it's just, you accidentally, like, get knocked off the bridge, you're falling for, like, half a second, and boom, there goes 50 health. Like, it's more frustrating than fun. And then once you finally get into the buildings, you get introduced to idols, which, you know, I don't think they're a bad mechanic. They're just more annoying. Like, the moment you're introduced, like, you know, they just teach you can only break it with melee with this one husk in there. And then the next room, you literally cannot break the idols until you knock out the wave, which, you know, I guess it's a skill check, but it's also just like, bro, you cannot be more annoying than right now. Like, I mean, the remainder of the stage is just, like, you know, grabbing both skulls to get on the ship. And once you finally get on the ship, it's a fight against the ferrymen, which is arguably the only thing 5-2 has going for it. And you can skip it by literally just tossing him a coin, which, you know, I don't think I should dock points for having a skippable fight like this. But, you know, when your stage is already struggling to really just be a fun stage, I can't help but feel like when any average Ultrakill player hops into 5-2, they're immediately just going to dash for the blue skull, bounce up to the ship, toss a coin to the ferryman, and just get the hell out. Like, you aren't here for fun. You're literally here just to get your P rank and get out. And for that reason alone, I can't help but feel like this is my first harsh criticism of a level that I'm going to be putting in get your P rank and get out. Like, it at least tops this in originality, but outside of, like, you know, the funny little Easter egg with the hamster on the ship and the Chiquito at the very top of the level, like, I honestly just don't ever want to look at the stage ever. Like, it's not a fun stage. It's an annoying stage. It's a frustrating stage. And, you know, the ideal mentality here is just, you know, get good here, but, like, I feel like no matter how good I get at Ultrakill, I'm still gonna be falling into the sea at least once or twice when trying to fight everything. So, for that reason alone, I think it warrants one of the lowest placements on this tier list. Okay, 5-3, Ship of Fools. This is the only good Wrath stage in my eyes. And, you know, even though it's the best, it still has a few problems, but it's a fun ride from start to finish. And it probably has to do with the fact there's a lot of enclosed spaces with a lot of tough enemies just all around. You have to go pick up a skull at the very beginning to unlock this door, and there's 2 you can pick from, with one being harder, but you don't need both. And of course, if you get both, you unlock a shortcut for your trip back in the later half of the stage, but overall, the room layouts are pretty fun. I enjoy, like, optimizing some of the rooms here, but I think the highlight, obviously, is the final unlockable weapon you get here, the rocket launcher. I personally am still not using as much as I should, but it is a powerful tool, especially with how you can ride the rockets and just slow them down. I mean, if you synergize it with the nail, actually, the rockets will just propel to whoever the nail is impaled to, so that's fun on its own right. But outside of that, though, the ship flips over halfway through the stage, and you have to basically backtrack the way you came to exit the level, and that's kind of fun in its own right, traversing a sunken ship. But I just think it's, I think it's just good. It's good. It's not great. It's not bad. But, you know, Wrath needed a good stage, and this is it. There's some annoying aspects with some of the room layouts, but, you know, you can get around it. Like, just get good, I guess. So, I'll put it in fun to play regardless. I think it definitely... I'll put it at the top of fun regardless. I think that's the best place to put it, but... Like, if I have to play Wrath, like, I'll deal with it to get to 5-3. Like, 5-3 definitely is the best Wrath has to offer, and, you know, I'm cool with it being at this spot. Alright, 5-4 Leviathan. You know, Wrath needed a boss, and this is a boss. It's just not a very good one in my eyes, and I think part of that has to do with the fact that this released alongside Heresy, which has the Gabriel rematch, but, you know, for Wrath's identity, I think it's pretty fitting to have a pretty mediocre boss alongside a mediocre layer, but... I mean, you enter it for the first time, it's at least cool to see a giant beast just coming at you, but outside of that first encounter, it's a pretty easy boss, really. Like, it has a weak point, and even if you don't go for that, as long as you're just dodging its attacks, which are pretty easy to avoid, you're just in and out of there, really. Like, I don't know, I just can't help but feel like this is more forgettable than Cerberus, because, I mean, like, alright, look. Its attacks are pretty easy to avoid, and I mean, like, you have water surrounding you, which, I mean, like, is a hazard on its own, but at least Cerberus can, like, you know, throw you in a corner or something. I don't know. Like, I found Cerberus to be more compelling than Leviathan in a lot of ways, and I think that's very telling to how this fight feels on revisits, so... I'm a little torn on either putting this in Get Your P rank and Get Out, or putting it the tier above, but... I mean, at least with 2S, I mean, like, it's funny, and, like, you know, you definitely get, like, a fun factor out of that, while here it's just, you know, it's like an okay fun the first time, and then when you come back to it, it's just kind of like, alright, just get on with it, you know, I'm almost at Heresy, let's just get there, you know, let's get to the bread and butter of Act 2, but... I think, you know what, yeah. I think I'm gonna put it in Get Your P rank and Get Out, but by the time I'm done with the final 2 stages, I'm gonna do a little bit of a reordering, and then, you know, calling quits from there, because I think at this stage in the tier list, there's probably some things I want to change, but I think we can probably agree for the most part that Wrath is the weakest layer in Ultrakill. Alright, with Wrath done, I can finally start talking about Heresy, which is a massive breath of fresh air compared to Wrath, and it's only got 2 stages. I guess we'll start with 6-1 Cry for the Weeper. Cry for the Weeper starts off a little slow, but the build-up is really good. It's very good. You get to see the Swords Machines again for the first time since Prelude, and, you know, fighting them again when you don't just have the revolver and the shotgun, they're a lot more fun. They're a lot more fun than just, you know, your average Stray and Filth. It's just... I appreciate more dynamic enemies that don't just shoot a projectile and then just walk a couple paces backwards, you know? So, welcome re-additions. You spend the first minute trying to find this Red Skull, and when you finally pick it up, you're greeted with a new pathway. There's a pit you gotta drop down, and the moment you drop down it, not only does the scenery change, but the music track changes as well, kind of like 3-1, but it's overall breathtaking. I love this transition so much. It goes from like a gloomy regal feel to just a sea of red, and it's great. Red might be my favorite color, but you know, it just works really well here. And you know, every fight from this point forward is just nothing but bangers, so you know, you got the hype from the 2-1 bridge. You know, you can fall for like several seconds and immediately bounce back up with the bounce pads. It's got the power-ups from the Greed layer. It's got idols in not annoying spots, even though I think there's only 1, but you know, hey, better 1 than 3, you know? And you know, just for the cherry on top, I mean, Gabriel taunts you right before you enter the final room, and that room is just one chaotic mess in a good way. You got hideous masses, you've got swords machines, you've got Cerberuses, you got everything. It's one giant clusterfuck, and it's great. It's absolutely great, and you know, I think it honestly cements like it goes in the nutty tier. It goes in the nutty tier, definitely. I think it might go right above 1-3, and I feel like I should also talk about the secret encounter. It's got a very similar encounter to 1-3 secret encounter where, you know, instead of 2 swords machines colored in red and blue, it's got 2 insurrectionists named Angry and Rude, both colored in red and blue, and, you know, while it's a lot harder, I appreciate the secret encounter, you know, just a little extra cherry on top just to make Heresy that more memorable, unlike Wrath. So, overall, 10 out of 10. Chef's kiss. I couldn't have asked for a better conclusion stage outside of the boss for Heresy. Alright, we're here. 6-2, Aesthetics of Hate. The final stage in Act 2 and the fated rematch against Gabriel. Do I think this fight lives up to the hype? I think it does. I think it does. I think it serves as an amazing conclusion to Act 2, and, you know, if we're going off of the first Gabriel fight, I think it just improves the Gabriel fight in every single way. Like, you know, once you understood the first Gabriel fight, he was pretty easy to avoid, and this version of Gabriel really is just a lot faster and a lot more unpredictable, so he still will kind of just float in the air. Once you knock out his first phase, you can just kind of sit under him and just, you know, dink at him a bunch before he says enough. But outside of that, though, I appreciate his little monologue right before the fight, and I appreciate his sudden outburst before and after the fight, too. It's really memorable, and, you know, I think it really just cements Gabriel's just such a fun character. Like, shoutouts to Gianni for really selling his character. Like, his voice is just so iconic. I love it. I love it so much. And, you know, I think for the final fight in Act 2, you know what? No, I think it goes in nutty. I think it goes in nutty. I think it goes under the V2 rematch. I think it goes under there, but I think it earned its spot in nutty. It's just him playing that instrument just during that, and then just saying, no, that's enough, I'm kicking your ass, is just beautiful. And, you know, the setup for Act 3, too, has definitely got me hype as well, so, you know, there's also that, but anyway. I think it's time I finally start reordering the tiers. Alright, and first thing I want to look at is probably 0S. I think that's going to be going back down here. I know I was a bit 50-50 on it at first, but, you know, looking at these tiers again, I think I'm okay placing it here just because, you know, it doesn't really have any side objectives. Once you play it once, you don't really have any need to go back here. It's definitely memorable, just like 2S, but I mean, like, it's an actual stage unlike 2S, so, you know, it's got a bit of a leg for that. Or leg up. Words. I think I'm okay with actually putting 5-1 above 1-4. I know it's probably a bit controversial, but again, I think with 4-4's existence, it's just very hard to acknowledge 1-4 as its own entity, and like a good one at that. It's just kind of an alright one. Honestly, I can move that up. I can move 0-1 up. Honestly, yeah, I think I'm going to leave it that. I think this is my definitive tier list for every single stage in Ultrakill. Despite all my re-recordings of this entire tier list, I try to make it as seamless as possible, so, you know, if it was a bit awkward at times, that's probably why, but I did my best to try to make this as pleasant as possible, so, you know, if you somehow enjoyed this one-off video idea I had, and want to see more, I would love to hear it, but it definitely took a lot out of my voice. Saying the right sentences at the right tone is just, it's really hard. I definitely couldn't do this in one go. I certainly tried, but I ended up just being stuck on some stages for like a good almost half hour just because I was just trying to say the right sentence the right way instead of just messing up my words. So, yeah. For those that stick to the end, thanks for watching. Would love to hear feedback if you enjoy this, and have an excellent day. Thank you for your time.